Public Technology Institute, better known as PTI, has been around for such a long time that we almost have to reinvent ourselves every 3 or 4 years. We've been around for almost 40 years, since I guess 1972, and our mission is to represent state and local government. For the last 20 years, we primarily have focused on cities and counties across the country. More recently, we see an enormous commonality between state agencies and state CIOs and local government technology executives. So we kind of branched out a little bit, not doing what NASCIO does, but at the same time kind of does things that they don't do. We provide training, we provide research, we have a great recognition program, we have a great certification program. We do about 20 webinars a year. We have research and surveys, we have our own meetings and our own summits, and we do technology assessment services. So it's a very active agenda. We're kind of like a therapy ward. It's amazing. I've learned in my quote-unquote old age that sometimes the best thing to do when you have a CIO is to listen, and something that vendors could learn from too. But very often they do have problems, they do have issues, and they're best, I think, aired among peer groups. So we provide the facilitation, we provide the forums in which CIOs and others with similar responsibilities can come together and discuss their issues. We also can be more specific and offer them, help, consulting and things like that, or we can point them in the right direction for somebody who can help them. There are so many issues right now, and if I was asked, what are the recurring ones, I think there are cycles. And right now we see a cycle where there's probably about 10 issues that are very much related. I think the first one would be because of the economy and because of all the changes in technology, it requires people to rethink technology, which is hard because a lot of people who started out were fixers, and many are. They still are fixers. They fix things. They spend 90% of their time putting out fires. Their one complaint is, A, they're not appreciated, and B, very often, they're the ones who don't have time to think or plan, and they know they should. They're working incredible hours. The benefits aren't what they used to be, so it's a very stressful kind of environment they work in. So the first one is stepping back and rethinking technology. It's being done either by them or by somebody else. And the second trend is it really comes back to the role of the CIO in terms of how relevant is that position today. There are 3 I's in that I of CIO, which is very interesting and very important. The first I would be infrastructure. Are they the chief infrastructure officer? Well, I think that's certainly among their responsibilities. That second I could be chief innovation officer. And can they bring innovation to the table? And the third one is chief information officer, and it seems that that's the one thing they provide the least amount of time and focus on. Not that they're consciously doing it, it just seems that they're being driven to other areas. In some places like San Francisco, they have all 3, and they don't even report to each other, but luckily they're all friends. So it's all about rethinking the position of technology and battling for relevance and figuring out in this day and age, with all the new devices that are out there, how do you remain relevant and still be meaningful without being the office of no, which sometimes people refer to the CIO as. You can't do this because, you can't do that because, those kind of things. The third one has to do with social media and the rise of it and civic media that comes with it. They're not necessarily the same, but they're on the same platform. And so there's a trend now to how do we do things better? How do we do things that utilize social media so we can better engage citizens? Now, a lot of the efforts that have come about thus far have really not come from the public as much as they've come internally from either technology folks who see the possibility or other high-level people in government who say, we need to better engage with our citizens. We really need to try and see if technology can help us restore trust. So that's a real important tool. So this whole social civic media is important, especially when local coverage in newspapers have become less and less. The fourth one is broadband. The whole idea of what can cities and counties do, and states, to further broadband adoption, as well as usage. And the fifth one is shared services, the ability to share data, to be able to share services. Do we need to have a school system with its own lawn care maintenance, and then all of a sudden have a city that does the same, and maybe a library that does the same? And then the other one is being able to visualize data, the big data issue. And that's huge, and that's more recent. That's kind of moved up. I've always said that data is like rain. It surrounds us. It's all over. But we're just now beginning to understand how we can collect it, harness it, and use it to make better decisions or to share information to restore trust by sharing it among other institutions. The last one is all about security, which is probably the most frightening aspect that faces them today. Every morning we read about a new breach somewhere. And I'm not even going to mention the ones that have been mentioned today or yesterday, because I'm sure somebody viewing this later is going to be made aware of something even worse. And so the question then becomes, what can we do to better prepare? How do we protect it? If a store is broken into, a big box store, the public can punish them by not shopping there again, and they'll go somewhere else. If a local government has a breach, it's worse for two major reasons, which is very important. Number one, we collect more than credit card information. We have all sorts of personally identifiable information, which is huge. And the second thing is this whole issue of they don't move. It's not like we can shop somewhere, oh, I'm going to move to another city because my data was breached. You're stuck. And so this erosion of trust now works against us with the very technology we're trying to use to enhance it. We did a survey about a year ago with NASCIO to kind of see, do state CIOs have a different agenda than city and county CIOs? And we are amazed to see the results. I'm not sure that would have been the case maybe 3 years ago or 4 years ago, but today they line up very similarly. The number one issue for state CIOs and local government CIOs is security and big data. All the issues I just mentioned are no more than one integer off if we look at the top 10. So that to me says something, and it's also encouraging. The fact that there's more in common, I think, opens the door for more collaboration. Because in many states, the local folks don't even know who their state CIO is. There's no relationship, and I think there should be. So one of the reasons why I do what I do is not only to serve and help our members, but also to find and build bridges to the state infrastructure. And not just the top CIO, who unfortunately or fortunately only stays there on an average of 32 months. Some shorter, some longer. But the agency CIOs, motor vehicles, health and human services, they may be there 5 or 10 years. The public safety apparatus within a state. I mean, there are so many institutions that are underserved. And so we see an opportunity to kind of bridge the gap and see where there are commonality and see how we can share resources.